Well, hey, Jason, how are you?
Good, Chris. How about you, man?
Good. Welcome back to Leading is Serving.
Hey, I always love being here.
I do enjoy hanging out with you and chatting over these things.
Yeah.
Because these are key topics. I feel like they're kind of like key things that I'm dealing with, like other people I know are dealing with. And
I love that we have the opportunity to fight for the highest good of our community, for the highest good of others, just to lead and serve. It's the same thing.
Right.
To lead is to serve.
Right.
And fight for others' highest good. And I'm so glad we have this opportunity.
Yeah, it's just
to just talk about it.
I agree. And like, who would have thought, you and I've talked about this many times, but I'm just I hope that this is reaching other people like it does for us.
Right.
And the great things that it does for us.
I'm better for just sitting around doing this.
Right. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. So we hope you are as well.
Yeah, and hop over to the leadingisserving.com, over to our podcast website. You can leave us a rating or a review. You can leave us a message. Nominate a leader. Send us a message. You can connect with these peer-to-peer mentoring groups through the Uncommons that we're setting up. We'd love to get you connected in a group that is fighting for your highest good.
Right.
So come and join us.
For sure. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, hop over onto social media, any Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Search for Uncommons GW for Greenwood, Uncommons GW.
Okay.
And that will help you get connected to these groups.
I love that.
Love it. So
what are we talking about today?
Well, what if we take the idea, we've mentioned the phrase before of what's it like being on the other side of the table for me? Of being self-aware as a leader, right?
Yeah.
Of how do other people experience me?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
What if we take that in the next step of how do people experience my brand or my company, my business? Okay.
That's good.
What is it like to be on the other side of the sales table, the contractor table like yours, or the other side of my desk when I am encountering a client? How do they experience me? Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about brand, I think often we think about logos and colors and websites and vehicle wraps and signage and shirts and swag and color,
Right.
That's our brand. And maybe in the purest marketing sense, sure, you're developing a brand on paper, and you're trying to communicate an ethos about yourself, right?
Right.
And that's all well and good.
Right.
And that's a huge part of it. But your brand reputation is what people say when you're not around. Mm-hmm. So when you're, as a general contractor, when you leave somebody's house.
Yep.
And their neighbor goes, "Hey, how'd it go with Stillwater?"
Right.
That's your brand reputation.
That's exactly right.
It doesn't matter how slick a logo or fancy colors you got.
Right.
Your brand reputation will speak louder than your tangible, brand marketing type stuff.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So what are you trying to communicate? What are the values of your company? Mm-hmm. And how do you communicate those to your clients and your customers? Because that's what you want to stick around, right?
Right.
It's
so
not.
True.
Sure. Your values could easily be, we're not trying to be the most expensive on the block,
right?
But we're not going to be the cheapest on the block,
right?
But we're going to give you good value,
right?
And we are going to blow the doors off of the customer service. Mm-hmm. That's going to be our brand. And so, how do you communicate that to people through not just your words?
Right.
Not just your little flyers,
right,
or your website.
That's so true.
But how does your team communicate that? Because you're not always around.
Right. And ideally, right, in the purest form of building a business, it can't be just you the whole time. So not only do you need to recognize it for what it is and maybe somewhat map it out so you have an understanding of what you want it to be, but also make sure that the people that are working with you are just as much bought into it as you are, because if they're not, then the signage that even though your logo's there, what the person represents might be a little different than what you're really originally intended as the business owner.
Right. The question of how do you instill your values, because nobody's going to love your business as much as you do. Mm-hmm. So how do you instill that into your team?
Right.
So that they pass that on as well into your clients, your customers, your community. Right.
And make it, it's almost a living, breathing part of the process of your business. And if you don't focus on it at some level, then you will lose sight of it quickly,
Right.
because there's things that creep in there all day long, like you said. So like, what if it's like integrity and quality and these kinds of things? Well, that's all great up front, and you can tell people that, but just because you tell them that doesn't mean that. I mean, I've heard other people tell me that, but I've
Right.
also heard stories of their same business not being able to follow through with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two sides to every story. I get that. But what I'm trying to get at is like, why didn't you just go the extra step to make sure that part of that story didn't get out? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
go make sure that the quality is by far not an issue, so that the conversation of, like you said, where the neighbor comes up and says, hey, and I mean, I'm sure that we fail at this at some level. Like, I'm sure that we're not perfect at it by any stretch. I try to make sure that our customers are always happy. Sometimes I've bumped into a situation where at one point the customer had different expectations, and I didn't realize that until it was too late. And so we had to have a conversation that I could fix it if they would like, but there was a cost to it. And so, it's, but we strive, and I'm sure most business owners that are listening to this podcast probably strive to make sure that they're delivering their reputation at a great level. It's not, and what I appreciate about this conversation is that, just like we were talking about being on the other side of a leader, what's the other side of your business look like? What's the customer look like? What's the customer seeing from their perspective?
Yeah. So there's a tool that helps us lead well in this of instilling this vision into our team.
Yeah.
That there's specific skill sets, because you want them to do the job right.
Right.
But there's also leadership behaviors that you're trying to multiply and instill in your team. Right. And so knowing who on your team needs to be responsible for what and what behaviors they need to lead. Right. And then there's really 4 ways that we can do that. There's a broad way of just informing. You put out a bulletin. Hey, be sure you blah, 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 right?
Right.
Or you do a company-wide address, or you do a team training, okay? Training gets into that second level. It gets a little bit more intimate, a little more working out of the details. Maybe you get a little role-playing going on of, how you're going to do that sales call, how you're going to do that customer follow-up. If you encounter this, you run these scenarios, you train people. The next level would be coaching. So that'd be more sitting down one-on-one and just saying, okay, I see what you did, and how could you get a little bit better? Let's offer, here's some tips and pointers of things. But then that 4th level would be apprenticing, which is really that intimate of, I want you to follow me, and I want you to really experience this from my point of view, so that I can begin to instill these within you. Okay. So it kind of goes, it's kind of like a funnel. You have informing, just this broad messaging at the top, sending out an email. And don't forget to blah, blah, blah.
Right.
When you do something, right? And that funnels down from that big informing to, group trainings, to individual coaching, to apprenticing, which is really that, hey, I'm going to do this, and I want you to watch. Now I'm going to do it, and I want you to help.
Right.
Now it's your turn. You do it. I'll help you. And then I'm going to do it, or you're going to do it, and I'm just going to watch.
Yeah.
And then you release them.
How do you, I guess, help me understand better how to best set this up if I'm looking at it from the perspective that we're talking about the business reputation. Like, so,
Okay.
So how would, if I was to try to teach this to somebody else, like, and like, some of the guys that I work with, like, hey, I want you to think about it from the perspective of the customer. How would you're saying that I need to use this to help them understand this process so that they can make sure that they're taking all the key tools to the...
Yeah, because your brand reputation ends with you as the owner, as the top. I mean, it all starts and stops with you.
Right.
It all ultimately reflects on you. And so if you've got, say you've got an operations manager, somebody underneath you, and then underneath them there's 3 or 4 team leaders, and then underneath those team leaders, they each have teams of 3 or 4 people each.
Right.
Okay. So, you've kind of got this organizational structure. The people on that last level, they're carrying out the final tasks with your customers, or maybe they don't even meet a customer, depending on your business. Okay.
Right.
But the further from the top, I don't know how to say this wrong. Let's start the other direction. Your operations manager, they need to be just a step off of you. They're not going to be exactly you.
Right. Because they're going to do things a little differently.
They need to embody it 100% as much as possible.
Right.
As that goes down the line, the culture of each leader is going to affect the teams underneath them.
Right.
Okay. And so then that manager is affecting the 3 or 4 team leads. And then those 3 or 4 team leads are affecting each of their 3 or 4 people. And so you've got, I can't do math well, you've got 20-something people.
Right. It's quickly
30 people, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you have to really instill those. And so spending those more intimate times of, I'm going to apprentice my operations manager. I'm not just going to send him an email and say, hey, I want you to do these things. I'm going to apprentice them and say, here's how I want this to look in my company.
Right.
Here's how I want this to be experienced through the team. You're probably going to coach those team leaders.
Right.
And you're going to inform the teams at the farthest reaches. But then your operations manager is going to apprentice his team,
right,
and coach his team, and then that team is going to apprentice and coach their team,
right.
And so you're instilling this value of, here's how we multiply these preferred behaviors and skills through our company. Of, you don't have to do it all. You just have to instill it in the next person and the next person, and
right.
Another. I just thought of this. Another organization we're part of, it talks about who's your 3 people, who are you pouring into,
right,
and then those 3 people each pick 3. It kind of sounds like a pyramid scheme, but it's not.
Right.
There's no profit moving up the pyramid. This is about, how can we pour into the next
right.
person.
Right.
And so, how do you multiply what you value, what the company is about, so that when it gets to the furthest reaches of your organization,
it's still there.
They are living it and breathing it, in a way that your customers, your clients go, okay, I get exactly what you're about.
Right.
And hope, and we're designing our companies and designing those values to be attractive. And we're hoping it will inspire people, and, because then, if you want to take it a whole nother step, we say that, we can throw a newspaper ad or a radio ad or a social media ad or a direct mail piece together, or we can sponsor this event and put up a booth or whatever. We say, those are all great marketing, right?
Right.
But what do we always say the best marketing is? Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Right?
Yep.
So then, does your client, your customer, become part of your team in a sense?
Oh, that's good.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
You are not just instilling your values and your culture into your team. How is your team instilling that into your clients and your customers? Because then they become your word of mouth team.
They're their own marketing team.
They are. And I mean, we offer incentives like,
right.
hey, $100 off if you,
right.
refer.
Right.
Well, what if they are so impressed and inspired and overwhelmed by the values that they have received? They do it. I mean, let's still offer the $100, but
right. Well, I mean,
but
for some small companies, they can't.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, okay, then you want them bought in so much that they're giving your name out.
I mean, if you think about restaurants in particular, they may have an easier time at this because if the food is amazing and that server did a great job, everybody's going to tell about it.
Right.
Oh, you so got to go to such and such.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you have a bad experience, the food's off, or server was having a bad day, or whatever,
right, yeah, right.
It reflects on the entire restaurant, even if it's a franchise chain. Don't go to the one in Memphis because it's going to be just as bad. So your client, your customers, is part of your team.
They are.
And so how are you teaching and apprenticing your team to instill those values in your clients?
That's good. Bringing that around full turn, I love that.
Yeah,
that's good.
Fun stuff.
Well, and it's like we focus so much on our team that I never thought about adding my customers as part of my team.
Right. That if one of your values, I mean, if we take this whole leading is serving and we're fighting for the highest good, if you were to use that phrasing your company value language with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm here. I'm fighting for your highest good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't need me, I will find who you do need.
Yeah.
That I'm in this for you, not for me. That if we can instill that in people.
Wow. That brings a whole nother level to it, doesn't it?
It does. And that's a pretty big, and that's a deep, meaningful value to me.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if your goal, like we mentioned earlier, that I don't want to be the highest cost, I don't want to be the lowest cost, I want to give you a great value for what you're getting with excellent service and excellent work. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you say that over and over and over to your client, hey, I know I'm not the lowest, but we're going to bring some value your way.
Right.
Because we want you to be feeling like you're getting the most for your money.
Right.
And let us know how we can help you with that.
Right.
And if everybody on the team is saying that, hey, wanted you to see what we're using here because we think this does an incredible job for the price that we.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So true.
And so, it's easy to kind of think about it through your lens of contracting, but take that into your realm, into your business, your industry.
Think about that.
And how can we communicate our values to our customers more than just a poster on the wall?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see them in, if you go back to restaurants, you see them in restaurants.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, we value such and such. Do they live it?
Yeah.
Do you live it in your job?
Right.
Do you live it with your team?
Yeah.
Do you live it with your customers?
And I mean, I was just, there's times where, there's things that change in your business and you need to regroup back to those core values.
Oh, yeah.
To make sure that you're reliving. Because, I mean, everybody does it in your, if you have a business and you have other people, that many people in it, I guarantee you a monkey wrench got in there somewhere, right? Because with that many people, you need to revisit it every once in a while just to make sure everybody's still in the same boat.
Right. Well, and sometimes and this is kind of getting off topic a little bit, but it helps if we're unclear or if we forget about our values or they're not present, even though they might mean a lot to us, those things can help us make incredible decisions. I've definitely been in situations where we're debating two solutions that neither one's perfect or great, and each one has pros and cons, and then all of a sudden we go, oh, but we said we're for this. This is our value, and if that's our value,
right,
well, it's clear which path we need to take.
Right. Yes. That is so true. That has been one of the guiding principles for us, even especially when the times get hard, it seems like.
Right.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. We can't lose sight of the fact that we're always delivering quality.
Right.
We're not going to cut this corner. We're not.
Right.
We're going to follow through. We're going to make sure this is done right.
Right.
That's good.
So you got to instill that in your team.
Yep.
You got to push that value down. And if you're frustrated with somebody not doing it, how can you multiply that into them?
Yeah, make sure you're following these steps.
Through messaging, through training, coaching, apprenticing.
Yeah.
Where can you step into that process?
And that being said, I guess you can't be too upset with an employee if you haven't followed these steps because then you failed them.
Yeah. Yeah. An hour of coaching, you think, well, I don't have time to spend individualized time with somebody.
Right.
An hour of coaching, imagine how many hours of frustration and email messages and text messages and conversations with the ops manager going, why is so-and-so not doing blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Coach them for an hour.
Right.
And if they don't get it,
that's different.
maybe they're not on the right bus.
Right. Maybe they're on the wrong seat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay,
that was good.
That's enough.
All right. Well, hey,
you guys
thanks for joining us.
We have so much fun.
We
We hope you have fun. If you're having fun, hop over to leadingandserving.com. Give us a rating, a review. Do all the good stuff over there. Leave us a message. Hop on social media. Find us.
Yes.
We'd love to
reach
hear
out
from
to
you.
us.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yep, sure would.
Hey, you guys go and fight for the highest good of others.
And have a
Join
great
us
week.
in the fight. We'd love it.
Yep, thanks.
Later.